So my rotary converter, time to, I guess, explain and lay it all out. As much as I don't want to, because I want to plow through and keep working, that's not conducive to doing video stuff. This is my rotary converter. There are 4 banks of capacitors. There is a starting bank, a primary bank, a secondary bank, and then the power filtering bank. The power filtering one is the smallest one, and it's put across, oh, you're never gonna see that. The residential power comes in through here. It's 240 volt or 248. I usually get about 248. Comes into the main power contactor. The main contactor is a 60 amp full load amperage contactor. If I load this thing to 80%, that's 55 amps flowing through it. I don't actually think I'll ever see 80% coming out of that after some testing. The power then comes in on L1 and L2. L1 and L2 get fed straight to this motor over here. It generates the third, the third leg, which is this white one coming in here. So there's an L1 and an L2 going to the motor, and the motor generates the third leg. All 3 legs are connected to the primary and secondary capacitor banks. The primary bank, I kept increasing the farads until I got 40 amps on the generated leg of this motor. The 40 amps is actually measurable across this wire when it's running. The other 2 legs that are coming out of the capacitors and are also connected to the motor show about 20 to 30 amps on each one of them. If you measure the amps coming out of each one of these capacitors on the primary side, I get about 4.5 amps out of each one. On the secondary bank, I get about 3.5 on each one. So I bought these terminal blocks, or fuse blocks I should say. So all these are dead on this side, and wherever I put a fuse in allows the current to flow into this block, which then flows out to the Haas. These are 5 amp fuses and 7.5 amp fuses, so that I'm just a few amps above what each of these expected outputs should be. So if there's ever a problem, I'm hoping it'll catch it. Now the second contactor here is the starter contactor. It connects this starting capacitor into the system to get the 3-phase motor turning. Once it's turning, all the rest of this does what it needs to do. The starting contactor is controlled by a potential relay. The potential relay adds the starting capacitor to the whole system to help the motor start. Once the back EMF gets high enough, which opens this contactor and disconnects the starting capacitor. There's then a resistor across the leads on the starting capacitor to bleed out the energy in it so that it's not, so it's not loaded up all the time. Because danger! And then this switch here is wired into this contactor so that when I flick it, it connects this or closes the contacts and fires everything up. Want to hear it? So now watch this as it fires up. Ooh, I wonder how many it pulled. Lots! I saw a 53 there. So now, or 14. I don't know, you're gonna be able to see that one in the middle. She's showing about a 39 or a 40. And about a 30. So, and then like I said, each one of these should be about 3.5. Oh, did I get it backwards? 5. Oh. Are they all throwing out 5s? Oh, so they are. Interesting. Oh, so they're all 5s. Oh yeah. Oops. Damn it, I'm gonna have to replace that one. Okay. So we have L1 and L2. Oh no, let's start over. All right. So what I did was I designed this system, well, designed, copied, modified, I don't know. What I ended up with though was this system. That's what you see on the board. So there's the primary capacitance bank, the secondary capacitance bank, the starting bank, and then the power filtering bank. Each one of these dots is one of those fuse banks that you saw on the piece of wood down there. The starting bank is a 324 microfarad, 440 volt rated starting capacitor. And again, it's only engaged by that potential relay just to get the motor going. Once the motor's going, it cuts it off. The power filtering one, which I'll get to later, is used to reduce the incoming line amperage. I only threw a 10 on there and it dropped it a whole bunch. It seemed really low and reasonable, so I just left it at that, to be honest. The primary and secondary banks, however, are super important. That's where the jam's made. What you do, or what I did, is I started out with just the primary bank. And at 0, there are 4 voltages we're interested in. There's this one, the incoming line voltage, which is 248 volts. The voltage across here, oh no, I lied, I can't read. And I get I get 1 extra volt later on, halfway through this. So 246 volts across there. When I had neither of these hooked up and just the motor running, I got, which one was A to B again? Oh, I sure wish I knew. So there's gonna be 3 voltages we're interested in. So with no capacitors in either of the banks, I got 216 volt here and 208 volt here. Still with the 246 across there. I added my first 50. All of these are in microfarads. So I added a 50 on this side. Oh, better make sure it's connected or it'll make sense. I don't like the way this line's looking now. So now we've put a 50 in this bank. Wow, I don't know how I'm gonna show you that. That's what I could show you. I could show you right there. Now that we've relayed this out, nothing connected. We got 246 volts across the line in, 216 volts across L1 and the generated leg, and 208 across L2 and the generated leg. Then, when you measure the amperages coming out of the motor, or in or out, because it's AC, so, you know. We got, better get this right? We got 34 amps here, 35, and 0.2. So while it is producing voltage, it's getting no amps out of that leg. Bit of a problem. So what we do is I add a 50 microfarad to CP, or the primary, which then changes our voltages. We now get a voltage of 227 volts and 210. Incoming voltage is still the same. Now the amps change drastically. So 0.2, that's what we started at. Adding that 1 cap brings us up to 4.4. So then we add another 50. Our amps again change. These are also dropping, by the way, as the amps are being pushed over to the generated leg, but I only have so much real estate. So 9.6 amps, 235, 219. So then I added another capacitor, bring up to 150. These also bumps up the voltage again, 243 and 222. The amps are now 14.4 on that generated leg. So then add another one. You can see where this is going now. Can you? That changes the amps to 19. And the voltages, 249. Not sure, that one didn't change. I might have screwed up that one measurement there. This one's probably wrong. It's okay though. It's probably 227. I just can't read. So then I add another one. That again changes the voltage to 256 and 233. So 246 coming in, we now have 256 volts across the generated leg and the L1 house line. 233 volts across the L2 and the generated line. The amps are now at 25. 25 amps. What the procedure that I am following says to do is you take this to about 8 to 10%, or no, 3 to 4% over what the incoming voltage is, and then you start adding your secondary capacitance to bring these two pretty close to each other, but still 8 to 10% higher than the incoming voltage. Then when you connect the Haas, you watch everything and see how things change, and then you can play with the capacitance to make sure the Haas is happy. Over here, your motor's not drawn more than the 40 full load amps that it's capable of. I started adding capacitance on the secondary leg. And we started, same thing, with the 50. So the first 50 on that side takes us to 257 and 242. So it's now at 28 amps on the generated leg. Man, this is just no good. There you go. So 28 amps on that generated leg. We then add another 50 on this side, which then changes our amps to 31.1. This one remains the same at 257. This one becomes 252 volts. I was being conservative on this side because I wanted to see what happened on this side. The amps are still less than the 40, so I decided to add another one on this side. 264 volts and 257 volts on this side. What's really interesting though is we are up to 36.9 amps. So now I'm starting to get nervous because we're getting close to the 40 full load amp rating that motor is capable of. But I had some smaller ones just for that. So now I add 120 on the secondary bank, which takes us up to 38.9 amps on our generated leg. Changed only a little bit. 261. So I decided to add one more, which brings our amperage up to 40.2. And our volts go to 266 and 263. Now, the power filtering one was a 10 μF, and I probably can play with it more, but I just left it. Incoming line, so the measured amperage on these lines coming into the motor now were, I think, what did we saw them before? 30 and 27 or something? And then 40 out of the middle one. What's interesting, however, is we're only about 7.8 amps on both of them idle. I hope that explains it all because I'm about to erase it all. Incoming line voltage is 246, 266 across the generated leg in L1, 263 across the generated leg in L2. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's much else. 300 farads or microfarads on the primary bank, 140 microfarads on the secondary bank. Got us exactly where we wanted to be. Yeah, let's erase this and then get to the So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all these guts and put them inside of this thing. This giant 24 by 24 by 8 enclosure. I'm gonna leave it all on the wood because it insulates it nice against this thing, and it gives me a way to attach it and change it in the future, because who knows what's gonna happen with that converter. And then I'm gonna put it in the back corner over there. I haven't decided, I'm probably gonna put it flat because I don't really like putting stuff against that edge anyways. And that's probably when we keep all the, like the lubricants and coolant and stuff for the Haas. So I'll probably put the electrical box over there. To get the power from the load center, I'm gonna run ENT all the way along this wall and down, woohoo, down there, and all the way around to my fuse box. What I'm not sure, however, is if I'm allowed to use this stuff. It's bendy and easy to use, but I don't think it offers the mechanical protection that maybe the inspector man's gonna ask for. That doesn't really matter though, because it's a 5-foot rule. So even if he makes me replace that little bit, it's still gonna be easier to run that into the mezzanine than instead of doing that hard PVC conduit. So that probably concludes the explanation part of this. I'm gonna get the box, get all the ENT done. I'm gonna work on that right now. I'll probably show you an update here in probably an hour or two. I don't even know what time it is, but I'm feeling lazy. And I still gotta run over to Thomas Skinner and pick up my carbide bits. Hopefully they're there. And then stainless steel all weekend, fun stuff. So the phase converter is gone now. I've got it back up top. I've moved it up top. As you can see, I ran the conduit over, up, around and up to there. And then there's a line that runs from the box up there, comes down and into the rotary, which I've tucked in behind the Haas. So, here we are above the Haas. So this is the line running from the load center in. This is the line running down and into the Haas down there. And then that's the line I just showed you that runs down and into the rotary, or the motor. The motor is a 15 horsepower, 40 amp, 3-phase motor. So just like before, just all nicely tucked inside and nailed down and secure. Nothing's going anywhere. That concludes the whole rotary converter build. So the Haas is a 15 horsepower machine, and the rotary converter is a 15 horsepower. Now that thing puts out 40 amps. And on the Haas, it says it puts out 40 amps max load. Largest load is 30 amps. But when you look inside of it, the main contactor, so the contactor in mine, which is this big one right here, there's another one of these inside the Haas, actually just like this one, except you would expect it to be a 40 amp contactor inside of the Haas. But it's not. It's a 25 amp full load amperage. So as soon as I knew that, I knew I wasn't gonna have a problem with any of this. A lot of people say you need double the size of the rotary. I think that's maybe if you didn't tune it, you might have to do that. I don't know, maybe I got lucky. Either way, that's done, and we're gonna make some chips. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Lot to do, lot to do.